Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Om Swastiastu. Namo Buddhaya. Salam kebajikan. Good morning. Welcome to the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition, the role of probiotics and microbiome in a period where various diseases could occur. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Caroline Agustin, who will guide today's event. And before we start today's event, I'll read out the rules. First, participants are required to use the same name as when registering at the display name section. Second, if the committee does not recognize the participant's identity and/or the name does not match when registering, then the committee has the right to remove the participant from the room event. Third, participants must complete an attendance list and evaluation survey that will be distributed by the committee at the end of the symposium session. Fourth, participants are not allowed to share the ID and passcode of their webinar Zoom with others to keep personal data security. Fifth, each question can be submitted via the question and answer box with the format your name _institution origin _ to whom the question is addressed and _ question. Sixth, if you have further questions regarding the webinar, please send a private chat in a Zoom to the committee team. And seventh, certificates will be given for the participants who attend the full session, both webinar and the symposium. This event is supported by various companies. Thank you to Frisian Flag and Kindiri for supporting this event. Now, before we start, let us pray together. Pray, begin. Pray, finish. Now, first of all, let us listen to our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Attendees are expected to sit up straight. All right, before we continue, let us listen to the safety induction brought to you by the Occupational Health and Safety Community, also known as OHSC. To OHSC, the screen is yours.
Good morning and best wishes to all of us. This time, I will provide health and safety induction or safety instruction regarding potential emergencies that may occur in the room where you do this activity and potential health problems that may occur to you. Two potential emergencies may occur, and those are fire and earthquake. If a fire occurs, immediately cover your face with cloths or wet cloth, then walk out of the house and directly contact the fire department at 113 or 1131. If the fire source could be controlled, and at the location there is a fire extinguisher, use the fire extinguisher with the pass method. Pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. If an earthquake occurs, apply the drop, cover, and hold on method. Drop your body, cover your head with your hands, and take cover under a chair or table, holding out until the earthquake subsides. Avoid glass areas and hanging objects. Two potential health problems may occur, and those are low back pain and glare. To avoid low back pain, make sure your position is comfortable with your back, head, and neck upright and not tilted to the side. Make sure your shoulders aren't too raised or too down. Put your feet on a footrest and stretch for 10 minutes each week. For glare conditions, make sure to stare at the laptop or gadget screen without turning your back to the light to avoid eye fatigue. Enjoy this event and don't forget to prioritize your safety and health because safety culture is our culture.
Thank you, HSJ. Next, let us listen to the sanitary induction brought to you by the Environmental Health Student Association, also known as ANVISA. To ANVISA, the screen is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition, brought to you by the Department of Nutrition Science, Faculty of Public Health, University of Indonesia. In this pandemic, it is our duty to keep the environment clean and healthy in order to create mutual comfort. Therefore, please take a moment to pay attention to the sanitary induction that I will convey. All attendees are advised to always maintain their personal hygiene and the surrounding environment by following these steps. First, always wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and running water before and after activities. Second, maintain the cleanliness of the surrounding environment by throwing garbage in its place. Therefore, make sure when this event takes place, the audience has a trash can around. Third, please wear a mask if at this time there are people in the audience who are outdoors, are sick, or want to interact with people from outside your residence. I hope all the attendees can understand and comply with the sanitary induction to keep the environment clean. Thank you all for your attention and cooperation. Have a nice day.
Thank you, ANVISA. Next, let us listen to the opening speech from the project officer of the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition. To Afifa Ika Kurniawati, the screen is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition, or ISON. First of all, I would like to thank God who granted us blessings, health, and the opportunity so we could gather in this ceremony. Dear Vice Dean for Education, Research, and Student Affairs, Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Indonesia, Mrs. Dr. Ir Asi Setiarini, MSc, Secretary of Nutrition Science Program, Department of Public Health Nutrition, Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Indonesia, Mr. Wahyu Kurnia, SKM, MKM, the Honorable Professor Dr. Endang Laksmi Ningsih, MPH, Afrah as the Project Master of the 11th Nutrition Expo, also to the keynote speaker, all panelists, the moderator and master of ceremony, and all participants that I cannot mention one by one, without reducing my respect who have participated in this event. Today, on Thursday, November 2021, ISON is held online as one of the Nutrition Expo series that is held annually by the Department of Nutrition. ISON's theme this year is the role of probiotics and microbiomes in a period where various diseases could occur. ISON consists of 2 sessions, which are panelist sessions and symposiums. The topics are provided by experts in their respective fields, and today there are more than 150 participants from various backgrounds and from all over Indonesia. I also would like to thank the sponsor and media partners that supported us, as well as all committees to have help from the start. Hopefully, this event will get fruitful discussion so we could gain more knowledge on these topics. Lastly, I would like to apologize if there is any mistake in organizing this event. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Afifa, for the opening speech. Next, let us listen to the opening speech from the project master of the 11th Nutrition Expo. To Afrah, the screen is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and welcome to all invited guests and attendees. Praise be to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given His grace and mercy so that we can organize this event. Secondly, may peace and salutation always be given to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I, Afra, as the Project Master of Nutrition Expo, would like to thank and welcome the Honorable Dr. Engineer Asistiani as the Vice Dean for Education, Research and Student Affairs, the Honorable Mr. Wahid Kurnia as Secretary of Nutrition Science Program, all our great speakers today, and everyone who has helped in running this event. In addition, I would also like to express my gratitude to the participants who have taken their time to attend this seminar. We hope that by holding this event, we can provide and share knowledge to professionals in nutrition, fellow students, as well as nutrition enthusiasts about the importance of the role of probiotics and microbiome in a period where various diseases could occur, especially during a pandemic that is still happening both in Indonesia and globally around the world. Today's seminar also coincides with the closing for another series of Nutrition Expo event. I represent the Nutrition Expo Committee. Want to say thank you once again to all the participants for attending. That's all my speech. Thank you very much for the occasion and your kind attention. Good morning. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Afra, for the opening speech. Next, let us listen to the opening speech from the Secretary of Nutrition Science Program, Department of Public Health Nutrition, Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Indonesia, Mr. Wahyu Kurnia, SKM MKM. To Mr. Wahyu, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Caroline. Honorable speakers in International Seminar on Nutrition 2021, Professor Mordan Abdullah from Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia, Dr. Anda Yunida Nugrahanti Sudarto, APTMP, whom in this occasion represented by Ibu Yusra Egayanti, SXD APTMP from Badan POM RI, Dr. Ina Agustina, MSc PhD from IMERI, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia, Professor Patricia Conway, visiting professor at NTU Singapore and adjunct professor at UNSW Sydney, Australia, Honorable Dean of Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Indonesia, Professor Sabarina, whom in this occasion represented by Dr. Asis Suterini, Vice Dean for Academic, Research and Student Affairs. Honorable speaker, honorable sponsors, media partners, and distinguished participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to you all. On behalf of the Department of Public Health Nutrition, with great pleasure, I would like to welcome you to the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition, which remarked the main and also the closing event of Nutrition Expo 2021. Recently, there has been an increasing interest in microbiome's role to human health. We now learn that the digestive system's function isn't only to absorb nutrients, but also involved in other physiological processes. Hence, the gut is now considered as the body's second brain. As we all know, one of the vital factors that affect gut health is food and nutrients. Therefore, in response to the elevating knowledge about gut health and nutrients, and as the implementation of one of the 3 pillars of higher education, Nutrition Society Association for undergraduate students and Nutrition Study Program, Department of Public Health Nutrition, Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Indonesia, presents the 11th Nutrition Expo with topic, Improve Our Nutrition, Decrease Health Risk. The Nutrition Expo 2021 consists of several events, namely video and poster competition, nutrition workshop, and community services. Today's seminar is our main event of the 11th Nutrition Expo with theme Improve Our Nutrition, Decrease Health Risk. We will have keynote speakers, Professor Mordan Abdullah, to present probiotics and gut microbiome from history to future. And also in plenary session, we will have 3 speakers, Ibu Yusra Egayanti, SSC APTMP, to present regulation and recommendation on the use of probiotics and microbiome in local foods. Dr. Ina Agustina, MSc PhD, to present how probiotics and microbiomes intake impact iron absorption. And also Professor Patricia Conway to present the role of probiotics in microbiomes on immunity during COVID-19 pandemic. This session will be followed by 4 symposiums with topics how lack of gut microbiota leads to depression, healthy gut flora, the alternative towards ideal body weight, the importance of gut microbiome to our health, and the 4th symposium is the effectiveness of fermented traditional food in stimulating the microbiome system during COVID-19 pandemic. We would like to thank to all speakers, sponsors, media partners, parties who are involved, and all participants whom I know come from various regions in Indonesia. High school students, undergraduate and postgraduate students, practitioners of national and subnational levels, and NGOs. Also, thank you to Dr. Agustina for her assistance in the preparation of this seminar. To all my beloved students, we are so proud of you and highly appreciate your commitment and efforts. Last but not least, to all participants, I wish this seminar will be fruitful, and I hope you enjoy this 6th International Seminar on Nutrition 2021. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Wahyu Kurnia, for the opening speech. Next, let us listen to the opening speech from the Vice Dean for Education, Research and Student Affairs of the Faculty of Public Health, Dr. Insinyur Asih Setiarini, MSc. To Dr. Insinyur Asih Setiarini, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Caroline. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. The honorable speakers, Prof. Murdani, Prof. Patricia Conway, and also Dr. Rina Agustina, PhD. And also the honorable lecturer from Department of Public Health Nutrition, Prof. Enang Asminingsi, Pak Kusdinar, Ibu Nurul Dina, and also Pak Wahyu, and all the students, and also all the participants. Praise be to be God who has given us blessing and health so that we can gather together on this occasion, even though still virtually. On behalf of Public Health Faculty, Universitas of Indonesia, I would like to thank the Honorable Professor Dr. Ratu Ayu as a head of the Public Health Nutrition Department, and also Dr. Dia Utari as the head of the Nutrition Study Program, and all of the lecturers from Department of Public Health Nutrition who took the time to attend this morning activities. I would like also thanks to honorable expert and resource person this morning, Professor Dr. Murdani Abdullah, Professor Patricia Conway, Mrs. Yusra Egayanti, also Dr. Rina Agustina, PhD, as well as the audience participant of the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition. The 6th International Seminar on Nutrition, or we call ISON, is one of the events in the 11th Nutrition Expo. This seminar is an annually event held by Department of Public Health Nutrition, Faculty of Public Health, University of Indonesia. This time, the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition came with the term, the role of probiotic and microbiomes in a period where various diseases got cured. This seminar will also be accompanied by the closing ceremony of the 11th Nutrition Expo. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all those who contribute to the success of this event, especially to the entire committee, nutrition science students, who have worked hard to organize today's event and the whole series of the 11th Nutrition Expo. And also thanks to the sponsor who have contributed and made this event a success. I hope this event can be a platform for the public and also for the student nutrition program, especially to gain the experience and knowledge from the expert, both from within and also outside the country, in order to increase awareness about nutrition, especially probiotic and microbiomes. With this, I open the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition, and at the same time close the series of Nutrition Expo 11 events this year. So I say Bismillah and Alhamdulillah at the same time. I think that's all from me. finally, to our participants, enjoy the fruitful seminar. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Insra Astiarini, for the opening speech. Now, before we move on, please allow me to give a brief explanation about the 11th Nutrition Expo. The 11th Nutrition Expo consists of several events, starting from the Nutritionist Wannabe, poster competition and video competition, followed by Nutrition 101 event, and now ended with the International Seminar on Nutrition. Therefore, let us watch the Nutrition Expo 11th after movie, and yeah, have a good time watching.
Datang kepada para peserta serta tamu undangan di acara Nutrition 101 yang bertemakan Role of Functional Food, Achieve Optimal Health by Preventing and Controlling Non-Communicable Disease.
Terima kasih untuk adik-adik sekalian yang saya rasa luar biasa.
Nah, kita lihat ya, apa saja sih contoh pangan fungsional lokal?
Halo semua, selamat datang di sesi demonstrasi masak.
Aja dengar pemaparan hasil diskusi dari setiap kelompok.
Jadi nama menu kita ini adalah Dragon Fruit Smoothie Bowl.
Wow, what a fun series of Nutrition Expo events. Hope all of you enjoy it. Now, I would like to once again say thank you to Kin Dairy and Christian Flag who have sponsored this event. And before I start my day and continue to the event, I will drink some milk, and now I will drink Christian Flag, which is the Belgian chocolate variants. All right, this is so tasty. Once again, thank you, Christian Flag. And now let us proceed and watch a special performance from Classic. Enjoy watching.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like. the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. In other words, I love you. In other words, I love you.
Thank you. What a wonderful performance. Next, we will take a group photo with all the panelists. To all panelists, please turn on your camera if possible. And to committee, please assist on this.
Thank you to everyone in the panelist tab. There are 2 pages in this tab, so please hold your smile. I will start from the first page. On the count of 3, I will screenshot. 1, 2, 3. The second page. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rafid, for helping, and thank you to all panelists for your camera. Now, before we move on, allow me to introduce our moderator who will guide today's seminar, Mrs. Sela Septiani SGZ MGZ. She is one of top graduates from Bachelor Degree Program in Nutrition, Public Health Faculty, Universitas Indonesia, and Master Degree Program in Community Nutrition, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia. Currently, she is an independent consultant for some nutrition projects or programs held by several institutions, working with some nutrition education tools in Edukazi, as well as the president of Ikatan Alumni Gizi FKM UI. Therefore, to Mrs. Sela as the moderator, the screen is yours.
Well, thank you very much to our Master of Ceremony, Caroline, for the very nice opening and to introduce me well today. With respect, I would like to again send my greetings to all special invitees today. Excellency, the Vice Dean of Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Indonesia, Ibu Asih, Head of Nutrition Department, FKM UI, Secretary of Study Program, Nutrition Study Program, FKM UI, Mas Wahyu, Nutrition Department lecturers, whom I love so much, professors, Head of AKG FKM UI, honorable speakers, committees, colleagues, registered participants, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced by the MC, I, Sela Septiani, with all due respect, will take over today's session. Until this afternoon, we will go deeper, exploring on the role of probiotics and microbiome in the period where various diseases could occur. Right now with us, already be with us, the keynote speaker, a very special guest today, and also definitely he is the most handsome among all of the speakers, because we also have another 3 beautiful speakers, experts will talk about the topics from different perspectives. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a fresh start, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Murdani Abdullah SPPD, KGEH, FACG, FASGE, But before that, let me introduce first our very special keynote speaker today. So as you can see on the screen, Professor Murdani received his medical doctor title in Universitas Indonesia, then got his second professional degree as internist also in Universitas Indonesia, and the doctoral degree in clinical epidemiology in Faculty of Public Health, FKM UI. And he, of course, produced so many scientific publications proven by Professor Murdani was awarded as a rank 22 for as top researcher for SINTA, Science and Technology Index. So congratulations, Professor. Today, Prof. Murdani will bring the topics on probiotics and gut microbiome from history to future. Without any further ado, to Professor Murdani. Time is yours.
Well, thank you, Sela. Thank you for your kind introduction. And I would like to thank also the organizing committee for the invitation to this wonderful meeting. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. This is really a great honor for me to be part of this great meeting. And I hope someone would show my slide, or I share screen.
Okay, Professor. Okay, the committee will help you.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. My topic is probiotic and gut microbiome from history to future. Next slide, please. This is the outline of my talk today. Next slide, please. Yeah, next, please. Well, I cannot see the slide. May I have the slide? Sorry for this technical problem. Yep. Sorry, I cannot see the slide. Can you help me, please? Well, I would like to start with the reality that there is no disease that God has created, except that He also has created its treatment. So if we trace to the story in the past, people have been trying to consume certain foods or items to heal diseases. The Bedouin groups consume camel stool for bacterial dysentery. In China, recorded in 4th century, people consume yellow soap, which was human fecal material, for severe food poisoning and diarrhea. Fermented foods have also existed for centuries, such as a product of milk, honey, and rice. Now humans have known about probiotic and the existence of microbiota. How have we developed our knowledge so far? Next slide, please. Next, please. Next, please. We see that the human digestive tract contains diverse microorganisms which form a complex ecosystem that impact the host physiology. Microbiota refers to the various microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi, and others, while microbiome refers to the microbiota and its overall genetic material such as protein, lipid, and nucleic acids. As we can see here, microbiome refers to the whole picture, while microbiota is only the microorganism. Next, please. A probiotic. Probiotic are a live microorganism that, when administered in proper amounts, give health benefits to the host. The concepts were first introduced by Ilya in 1908. Lilly and Stilwell first defined in 1965 as substances produced by bacteria that promote the growth of other bacteria. Probiotics are continuously being studied, as seen on the graph. Recently, experts have proposed newer terminology considering the possibility of non-viable microorganism having a role in health benefit called postbiotic. Next slide, please. Well, the main condition that cause various disease, whether it is acute or chronic, is, you can see here, inflammation. Inflammation is the central issues in recently disease. And many factors influence inflammation, and one of them is microbiota, which will be explained next. Next slide, please. When there is an imbalance of microbiota composition, it is called dysbiosis. It plays a key role in the pathogenesis of inflammatory disease, such as rheumatoid arthritis, atherosclerosis, diabetes, and inflammatory bowel disease. The figure shows what happens in the condition of dysbiosis. Bacterial cells produce short-chain fatty acid decrease in the condition of dysbiosis. There's also decrease in antimicrobial peptides. However, in the other side, an increase of harmful bacteria in the gut will produce enterotoxin and increase intestinal permeability. It can damage intestinal cells and affect energy metabolism and ultimately cause inflammation. Well, next slide, please. This image shows normal gut microbiota compared to its alterations. In dysbiosis, there's a disruption of gut barrier, translocation of bacteria, and tissue damage and release of inflammatory cytokine. Balance of gut microbiota is really important in the body's function. Next slide, please. Well, this is the intestinal microbiota interact with both innate and adaptive immune system. Its effects are not only local. The microbiome and its associated metabolites can translocate from the intestine to other organs, causing specific local immune responses, such as the brain and the lung, forming the gut-lung-brain axis. This will be important when linked to diseases of the human body. Next slide, please. We have discussed how microbiota and its alterations is related to inflammation and how the microbiota from the intestine affect other organs in the body. Now we will discuss organ in the body, the relationship between the microbiota and diseases such as metabolic disease, cancer, respiratory infection, and other functional disorder. Well, in this slide, we can see that it is found in patients with type 2 diabetes, there is a moderate degree of gut bacterial dysbiosis. There is a decline in butyrate-producing bacteria and increase in several opportunistic pathogens. Individuals with diabetes, obesity, glucose intolerance have a higher circulating liposaccharides compared to those unaffected. How does the level increase? This is the history of pathogenic bacteria cause disruption of gut permeability, and then this disruption of the barrier may lead to LPS movement through the intestinal barrier and into the circulation. The increased LPS levels activate pro-inflammatory pathways, eventually promoting insulin resistance through cytokines such as TNF-alpha and interleukin-6. Next, please. Gut dysbiosis is identified in stages of colorectal cancer, such as tubular adenoma and carcinoma. There is a higher amount of Fusobacterium, Bacteroides, and Methanobacteriates. The study also found a significant correlation between the development of colorectal cancer and Methanobacterialis levels. The figure on the right shows the bacteria compositions of tissues and feces associated with healthy patients and samples of colorectal cancer. We can see here that risk of colorectal cancer is influenced by microbial composition. Next slide, please. Studies in germ-free mice or those treated with antibiotic found impaired response to system and respiratory infection. Regarding respiratory infection, the microbiota affect innate immune responses and T-cell effector function, a process in viral influenza clearance is very important. The imbalance in the microbiota can affect the immunity and influence viral and bacterial infection. You can see in the left figure, and the figure on the right shows dysbiosis in the gut and airway in pediatric respiratory diseases. Other than inflammatory disease, there is also changes in asthma and atopic disorder. Next, please. Regarding the current COVID-19 pandemic, scientists try to understand whether microbiota also relates to COVID-19. Those are studies found changes in the composition of gut microbiota with more Bacteroidetes and less Actinobacteria. There is a correlation between plasma concentration of inflammatory cytokines, chemokines, and tissue damage markers with the composition of microbiota. It is also found that the dysbiosis still persists after the clearance of SARS-CoV-2 infection. It remains distinct irrespective of antibiotic use. The figures shows the relative abundance of various microorganisms in COVID-19 compared to no COVID-19. Next slide, please. The example of functional gastrointestinal disease or irritable bowel syndrome and functional dyspepsia. In IBS, there is a higher pathogenic bacteria and lower commensal bacteria. And functional dyspepsia is linked to small intestinal bowel overgrowth. Gut microbiota influence the intestinal function, and its alteration modulate various things such as gut motility, immune function, gut-brain axis, and others. The figures shows changes that happen with alteration of microbiota. Next, please. Not only functional foods, The drugs we consume could also interact with our microbiota. There is a phenomenon called bioaccumulation, where gut bacteria accumulate therapeutic drug without altering them. The image shows effect on drugs caused by bacteria, and the opposite, which is drugs effect on bacterial growth. There may be a mechanism that alters drug availability and bacterial metabolism, which have implication for microbiota composition, pharmacokinetics, side effect, and drug responses. Next, please. Well, these are the application of and potential of probiotic and microbiota in the future. We see how is the potential of probiotic and the application of our knowledge of microbiota in the next of our history. We have discussed that microbiota imbalance is related to diseases. So the aim is to restore that imbalance into the condition of what we call eubiosis, or its optimal balance. This is where probiotic and other therapeutic options targeting microbiota holds potential. Next, please. The use of probiotic for clinical health benefits is a fascinating area of research that scientists are still exploring. Probiotics have various beneficial properties for health, such as anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, anti-obesity, and some other effects. How does it relate to human disease? Let's see, next slide. This shows probiotic potential on diseases such as lactose intolerance, GI tract disorders, cancer, metabolic disorders, and respiratory tract infection. The study ranged from in vitro, in vivo to randomized trials and meta-analysis. However, further studies are needed to determine the optimal dose and strain for maximum health benefit. Next slide, please. One of the approach of to microbiota which is being studied is fecal microbiota transplantation. The method places stool from healthy donor into another patient's GI tract, changing the recipient microbiota to normalize the composition and gain therapeutic benefits. It is currently used in recurrent Clostridium difficile infection, and this is the step of the procedure. You can see here the method places stool from healthy donor into another patient in GI tract, and we can change the recipient microbiota. Next slide, please. And there are many studies done on this topic. A randomized trial found that FMT induced significant symptoms relief in IBS patients. An in vivo study tried to understand the mechanism, and they found that FMT reduces inflammation in DSS-induced colitis and induces variations in microbial communities. Then other study also found that it significantly affected the bacterial composition in the stomach. It also tested different routes of administration. Next, please. Well, this is fecal microbial transplantation in one of the ways to modulate the microbiota. In the future, more studies to be done for various prospective direction in therapy. Next, please. Well, we have been going through the COVID-19 pandemic for quite some time. Other than respiratory symptoms, COVID-19 may show gastrointestinal symptoms. Scientists have discussed the possibility of functional GI disorder in a post-COVID-19 era. The resolution of SARS-CoV-2 infection may lead to persistent GI dysfunction. The alteration of microbiota may contribute to chronic low-grade inflammation that is associated with gut dysmotility, increased sensory perception, and other symptoms in patients with FGID or disorder of gut-brain interaction. It is possible that there may be post-infection functional disorder in patients who had COVID-19, especially among those with GI symptoms. Next, please. I think this is a great study from our colleague, Dr. Ghoshal from India, to study post-infection functional gastrointestinal disorder following coronavirus disease 19. This is a case control study by Uday Ghoshal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I conclude my talk. Next slide, please. That human gastrointestinal tract contain diverse microorganisms that impact the body's physiology. The imbalance of microbiota composition play a role in inflammation and diseases. Therapeutic options that restore microbiota composition, such as fecal microbiota transplantation, hold a potential for health benefits in the future. And post-COVID-19 functional gastrointestinal disorder may become a significant issue in the future. Again, probiotic and microbiome are the future of medicine. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Prof. Murdani. What a very remarkable keynote speech you just gave today. Thank you very much. So now we agree that probiotics, microbiome are the future of medicine. That is a very interesting start to start our main plenary discussion later on. Unfortunately, we don't have any discussion session for this keynote session, which is very interesting actually. Once again, to Prof. Murdani, thank you very much. Will we have a photo session to committees already? Is it already by the MC? So once again, thank you very much to Prof. Murdani Abdullah. If you have any other agenda and you want to leave this room, it's okay. But if you also want to join us to another session, it's also a very pleasure for us. Thank you very much once again. Prof. Murdani, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Murdani.
Thank you, Prof.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak, Prof.
Yes. Terima kasih, Prof. So, participants, we will go to our next discussion session. We have 3 speakers, also the experts on the field, of course. Before that, I would like to remind you for the Q&A session. So during the presentation of our speakers, you can drop your question in the question and answer box with the format your name _ institution _ to whom the question addressed, to whom the question addressed, and then _ your question. And we will discuss your question later on the discussion session after the 3 speakers deliver their materials. Thank you very much. So, after knowing what just Prof. Murdani also explained about there is a bright future on this probiotics, how it gives a potential to our health, and knowing that there is a very promising future for probiotics, we also would like to learn more. How about the national regulation arranging the probiotics and other microbiomes claims in any food products, especially here in Indonesia. Also, what other evidences show that probiotic consumption, microbiome, can be beneficial for individual, community health? Do they provide special role during this pandemic COVID-19? How about other prioritized problem in Indonesia, such as anemia? What we can do with probiotics, microbiome? For those puzzling questions, we already have 3 top experts to provide, inshallah, a promising answer. Those 3 speakers who will present their materials consecutively are Mrs. Yusra Egayanti, SSI APT MP from Indonesian FDA or Badan POM. And then we also have Dr. Rina Agustina, MSc PhD. I think she is one of the brain behind of these all consecutive brilliant topics in this event today. Dr. Rina, nice to meet you. She is the head of Human Nutrition Research Cluster, IMERI, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia. And as our third speaker, we have Professor Patricia Conway, BSc, MSc, PhD, from professor from UNSW Australia, and visiting professor at Nanyang Technology University, Singapore. So, distinguished participants, we will continue to our first speaker today. First speaker in our plenary session. Already be with us, Ibu Yusra Egayanti, SSI APT MP. Before she delivered her material today, allow me to introduce her a little. She is currently working as the coordinator for standardization of food for special dietary uses in Indonesian FDA, Badan POM. She is a pharmacist who gained her second degree as Master of Food Technology from Institut Pertanian Bogor, IPB. And today she will enlighten us with the topics, regulations and recommendations on the use of probiotics and microbiomes in local food. So, without waiting any longer, to Ibu Yusra. The screen is yours, Ibu Yusra.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, very clear. Crystal.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to deliver our gratitude to Faculty of Health Community in the University of Indonesia for inviting BPOM to deliver current regulation regarding the microorganism or probiotic in food. We also would like to distinguish other speaker, Ibu Rina, one of our expert in developing the regulation of food probiotic in BPOM, and for other important speaker in this seminar. Let me share the screen. Can you see? Is it visible?
Yes. Yes, Ms. Yusra.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to share about Indonesia regulation on the use of microorganism and probiotic in processed food. Before I share with you about the current regulation and also the current update on this regulation, I think we already have the common understanding about the traditional fermented food, because talking about probiotic is come from the fermented food. As we know, the fermentation process is has been going since ancient time, and it is also widely consumed in Indonesia. For instance, tempe, oncom, and so on. It is also used the microorganism to process such a fermented product. We also facing with the situation of the increase of the prevalence of NCDs, and it's already drive the changes in healthy lifestyle, and with that, it is also encourage consumer to have the more healthy food to overcome or to make them more health in to overcome the situation of NCDs. We also now that the development, research and innovation on food technology, and also the research on fermented food and probiotic food also increase. So it is the challenges for the food businesses to innovate or to formulate a new food product that provide health benefit according to the market demand. So to overcome or to accommodate the situation, it is needed the regulation. There are two mandates given for the regulation. The first one is to protect public health. With the regulation, we hope can ensure the safety and quality, and also the efficacy of the food, if the food made claim on the label, and also to enabling consumer to choose food product properly, and not and are not misled with false or ambiguous or misleading claims on the label. On the other hand, regulation is also to ensure fair and responsible food trade practices among producers. With the regulation, we hope it is also encourage food industry to develop food product that are more competitive and can be marketed in the market. Talking about the microorganism and probiotic in food, there are two regulations related to this issue. The first one is BPOM regulation, or Indonesia FDA regulation number 34, year 2019, regarding the food category. In this regulation, cover the food category system as well as fermented food. And the other regulation is BPOM regulation number 13, 2016, regarding the claims on the label. It is also regulate how to make the claim on the label, as well as how to assess the probiotic and how to assess the new claim on probiotic in the food. And this regulation is in progress in revising progress. We hope this new regulation, revised version of this regulation, will be issued within this year. I hope. Now, if we're talking about the microorganism in food, there are two kinds of food. The first one is fermented food, and the second one is probiotic food. The use of microorganism in food, if you see on the screen, there are four conditions. There are four type of the use of microorganism in the food. The first one, microorganism are used as starter cultures only, and the second one, the starter culture that used in food products is also as probiotic. These two kind of product maybe we can categorize as fermented food. And the other situation is the microorganism is added in food product, or maybe we call a probiotic, which claim a probiotic, because probiotic is also a claim. And maybe beside the claim on probiotic, maybe the food company would like to put another health claims on probiotic. And these two kind of food, maybe we can group or we can categorize as probiotic food. The prerequisite of the microorganism that can be used in food products, it shall be non-pathogenic, non-toxic, confer a health benefit on the host, and adequate amount of viable cell of microorganism. And then I would like to share about the fermented food. As we know, fermentation is a biochemical process involving microorganism and its metabolized. And fermentation is also defined as food or beverages produced through control microbial growth and conversion of food components. And it is also known as a breakdown of carbohydrates like starch and sugar by bacteria and yeast. And fermentation is also an ancient technology preserving food. Consideration in assessing the new fermented food is regarding the identification of microorganisms that may be used in food fermentation. There are two kinds of microorganism or culture that can be added in fermentation process. The first one is identified culture, and the second one is unidentified culture. For identified cultures, we need the information about the genus, species, and or strain. Can be genus only, species only, or strain only, and the name is must be in accordance with the nomenclature and must be not misleading. For unidentified culture, maybe we need the information about genus or species, if any, because it is unidentified, or maybe they can use a common name of starter. For example, in bahasa ragi tape, ragi tempe, and so on. And the information that we need in assessing the new fermented food is, for example, the addition when the microorganism added in the process of fermentation, and what metabolites that may be produced by the microorganism, and also how to stop the fermentation process. And for the safety requirement, maybe we need the history use of fermented food in some generation. And other safety data may be added as a supporting, for example, scientific publication maybe already has a GRAS or KPS approval from another country. Below are the type or the examples of fermented food that already regulated in regulation number 34 year 2019. There are various category of fermented food in this regulation. Dairy product, fruit and vegetable, cereals, bakery wares, meat and meat product, fish and fish product, salt, spices, product beverages, and also ready-to-eat savories. You can see on the screen some examples of each category. For example, for dairy product, there is yogurt, lassi, curd, and other culture yogurt, kefir, kumis, cheese. It is also one of the fermented food. For the fruit and vegetable category, for example, nata, pickles, some traditional fermented food, for example, tempoyak, you know, from durian, fermentation of durian. And it is also quite a trend, yeah, kimchi, gochujang from Korea. For the category of cereal and cereal product, there are, for example, is widely consumed by Indonesian people, tempe, is widely consumed. For the bakery were some traditional food as well, appam, bika ambon, and so on. And maybe I would not mention one by one. You can see on the screen terasi, masin, tauco, oncom, and so on is the example of fermented food that already marketed in Indonesia. This is, for example, one of the standard of fermented food. This is one of, I only share one sample because it's very much type of fermented food. For the fermented milk is defined as a milk product obtained by fermentation of milk, which milk may have been manufactured from products obtained from milk with or without compositional modification by the action of suitable microorganism and resulting in reduction of pH with or without coagulation, isoelectric precipitation. This starter microorganism shall be viable, active, and abundant in the product to the date of minimum durability. This is also the problem about the storage instruction, proper storage instruction, how to ensure the viability of the microorganism in fermented milk. If the product is heat treated after fermentation, the requirement for viable microorganism does not apply. This is the example of microorganism that already been used. Some fermented product in that already described in regulation number 34 2019. Maybe you can see lactobacillus, bacillus, saccharomyces, penicillium, and so on. There are many microorganisms that already used in some fermented product described in regulation FDA number 34 2019. And for the labeling, a requirement of food, fermented food. Okay. The information that shall be provided on the label, the culture must be stated in the list of ingredients. For the identified culture, the information covers genus, species, and or stand, must be in accordance with the nomenclature and must not be misleading. However, for the identified, unidentified culture, maybe on the label can provide the information about the common name, for example, ragi tape, ragi tempe, and so on. And the labeling has also provided appropriate storage instruction to maintain the viability of the microorganism. On the screen, the registration number, the registration data of fermented food in Indonesian FDA within the last 5 years. You can see yogurt is quite widely registered in BPOM and other fermented milk. And for yogurt, dominated by local product. But for the cheese, it is dominated by imported product. You can see on the screen. Now, I would like to move to the other kind of the use of microorganism is probiotic food. How to differ between fermented food and probiotic food. I think I hope we have had a common understanding. The microorganism using in food processing, maybe we can call fermented food. But if the microorganism added in the food product, then the microorganism does not apply, does not influence the process and the characteristic of the food product, maybe we can call as a probiotic. Fermented food may be claimed as a probiotic food if it contains live microorganism, which when consumed in sufficient quantity, so sufficient amount, have been shown to provide health benefits. Now, then the consideration in assessing the probiotic food before we're talking about the requirement, maybe we can see the definition of probiotic. Probiotic are live microorganisms which, when administered in adequate amounts, confer a health benefits on the host. This definition is referred to WHO definition, and it is also already adopted in FDA regulation number 13, 2016. There are some important points if we're talking about a probiotic. The first one, a probiotic is microorganism. It could be bacteria, spore or vegetative cells, and could be fungi. And as stated in the definition, probiotic is live or viable and confer health benefit, and it is needed to be proven by valid and consistent clinical trial. Adequate amount is needed to give the health benefit, and probiotic is strain specific. One strain cannot be extrapolated to the other strain. And the probiotic must be stable during processing, distribution, and transportation. The use of microorganism as probiotic with or without claim must be assessed by BPOM before allowing to be added in the food or product. There are some food products that already used as a vehicle of probiotic. For example, fermented products is still the most food that are added by probiotic. Dry processed food with one or more dry probiotic, and also non-fermented liquid processed food. It is also used as a vehicle of probiotic. Some consideration in doing the assessment of probiotic. There are several points to be considered in doing the assessment. The first one is identification of microorganism. If we use the microorganism and claim as probiotic, it should be a strain identified. It is taxonomically defined, and to prove the identification, we need the phenotypic and genotypic methods. Maybe we can, maybe the company can use the whole genome sequencing or PCR and sequencing, and the microorganism must be stored at the national or international cultural collection. In doing the assessment, we also look into detail the microorganism production process, and the third one, the product information as well. For example, the food category, whether whether probiotic will be added in meal, in biscuit, in chocolate, or another food category, and also the characteristic of the food product, pH, water activity, processing step, the composition of the list of ingredient of the food product. It is also needed to look into detail in doing the assessment of probiotic. And the other step is how to characterize of probiotic function. This is in vitro and in vivo study to prove that probiotic shall be resistant to gastric acidity, resistant to bile acid, and able to utilize nutrient and substrates in normal diet, and also adherence to mucus and or human epithelial cells and colonialize, and antimicrobial activity against potentially pathogenic bacteria. And also the ability of the microorganism or probiotic to reduce pathogen adhesion to surface. Sorry. And the last one is microorganism can be used as probiotic, not contain transferable antibiotic resistance gene. After having the information about the identification, the processing step, and also the in vitro and in vivo study, we need the safety assessment phase 1 clinical trial to ensure the safety for human consumption. And if the probiotic or bacteria or microorganism would like to put a claim as probiotic on the label, it is need the phase 2 clinical trial to prove the efficacy as a probiotic. Local clinical trial that conducted in Indonesia is priority, as we know we microorganism is influenced by food consumption pattern or dietary pattern. So a local clinical trial is priority, and the clinical study is double-blind randomized placebo-controlled trial, and the outcome that we seen based on the clinical trial, for example, the feces quality, the life of microorganism in feces qualitatively and quantitatively, and also the short chain fatty acid content. We also consider that not all clinical study can be conducted in Indonesia. So if the clinical trial has not been conducted in Indonesia, maybe the company can use other clinical study result that already conducted in other country which has similar dietary pattern and hygiene sanitation practices. For example, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Other than those countries mentioned, maybe we need supporting data about the dietary pattern, sanitation hygienic practices, and public health problem in a country that would like to be used as a supporting data clinical trial on probiotic. The innovation of using of probiotic, not only single strain, but also multiple strain. So we need additional data if the probiotic is in multiple strain, safety and efficacy for each strain, and also the information about the compatibility, whether it is synergistic or antagonistic between them. Besides the claim of probiotic, maybe company would like to put another health claim, for example, maybe related to immunity, related to COVID maybe. We need a clinical study to prove the other claim, and the same situation with the probiotic requirement. We need to look into detail the result of clinical trial about the claim that would like to put on the label. Refer to Codex as a standard under WHO FAO on nutrition and health claim. It is emphasized that the claim that may be made on the label should be consistent with national nutrition policy, truthful and not misleading, and it is supported by scientific evidence. I think this is already in line in Codex, and almost all countries using Codex as a main reference in developing food regulation. For the claims, some consideration in assessing the claims. Claim may not be listed on intermediate product. Claim may only be listed for the ready-to-eat product. So, for example, intermediate product, for example, flour that cannot be consumed directly, a claim cannot be listed on that product. The claim is also shall be true and not misleading. And we would like also to share that claims are prohibited for food intended for infants, because as we know, breast milk is the best for infant. There is no claim may be on may not be put on the label for infant formula, follow-on formula, something like that. For food, a claim also prohibited to illustrate that the nutrient or probiotic can prevent, treat, or cure disease. The highest claim that can be added on the food label is reduction disease risk claim. But the claim regarding the prevent, treat, and cure disease is not allowed for food product. And claims should be consistent with national nutrition and health policy. Labeling of probiotic food, once the products already fulfill all requirements that I mentioned earlier, they can put the information of probiotic on the label. The information provided regarding species, strains, and minimum number of living strain at the end of shelf life, appropriate storage instruction to maintain the viability, and the claim that already approved based on the assessment that already been done. For example, for claim probiotic, which can be accompanied by claim help maintain a healthy digestive tract, and also a health claim can be listed according to result of assessment of the efficacy. Depend on the clinical trial, depend on the proposal from the company. After all the information, the requirement in assessment already provided, maybe the company will have the registration number for a food product. But if the requirement in the assessment of probiotic and other requirement in the pre-market evaluation is not enough to deliver a registration number, maybe the company will not have the registration number. Some consideration or in refusal or suspension of the approval, for example, lack of scientific evidence on human study, inappropriate scientific evidence as proposed claim. For example, maybe a study was not carried out in the target of group claim. For example, maybe study was conducted using children as a subject, but the claim can want to be extrapolated for the general population. For multi-strain probiotic, lack of data on the compatibility and safety, and inappropriate information of identification, genus, species, strain, no direction how to store the product, in appropriate label, and some violation in pre-market evaluation. Once a product out in the market, we also conduct the control, quality, safety, efficacy, and the labeling control at the all channel of production and distribution. We see the label and conducting the testing, sampling and testing for the food product that already out in the market. Some findings from the post-market control, for example, offer health claims label, and also different labels with the registration approval document. Maybe we already allow, for example, A label, maybe in the market label become A+. It is already one of a sample of post-market finding. And it is also one of the problem. Inappropriate advertisement is one of post-market finding, and other food safety requirement violation from post-market. I think the last part of my slide is how about the global or overseas standard or regulation? Is Indonesia regulate diverse among countries, or as we know, as far as we know that government regulation differ among countries, because until now there is no international standard as a reference for handling the probiotic. So countries recognize the situation. It is needed the development of codex guideline for probiotic. With the codex guideline, it can help to establish consistent eligibility criteria on application of definition at national and international levels, to provide guidance for national regulatory agencies to build probiotic focus regulation, and with the regulation or the guidance will satisfy the authorities, consumer and industry, and lead to better consumer satisfaction, health and well-being. Based on this situation, there is a proposal to develop a codex guideline since 2019. The member countries and also observer member of the codex propose new work regarding the harmonized probiotic guideline for use in food and dietary supplement. However, this proposal is still in the step of a discussion paper. There are several steps needed in accordance with a codex procedure. There are 8 steps become a final document released by codex. We hope we will have the international reference regarding the probiotic. I think that's all our views about our current regulation on probiotic. Thank you for your great attention, and you can also follow our social media website to have an update on the regulation of people. Thank you. Over to you, Sila. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ibu Yusra, for a very clear explanation about the regulations, recommendations of having probiotics, microbiomes, fermented foods claims in Indonesia. A little bit trying to connect on what we just got from our keynote session and keynote speech. We know that the scientific findings regarding probiotics, microbiome in Indonesia and also in various countries are increasing rapidly over the time. And from Ibu Yusra, we know now that Indonesia noticed this issue development by updating their regulation, having a special regulations on fermented food, on probiotics food, and very nice information today that we get is not all fermented foods can be categorized as probiotic foods. So thank you very much once again, Ibu Yusra, for a very clear explanation, detailed information on the claim, title of probiotics foods and the others, microbiomes and fermented foods. Thank you once again. Looking forward for you later on discussion session, Ibu Yusra. Thank you very much for waiting. We still have other 2 speakers. Once again, thank you very much, Ibu Yusra. Allow me to go to our next speaker. Thank you very much. Okay, distinguished participant, ladies and gentlemen, the second main topics will be very related, I think, with what we just got from our keynote speaker, Prof. Murdani. Prof. Murdani mentioned that and most of these diseases occurred starting by inflammation, having inflammation. Talking with inflammation, it was also probably related with one of most nutrition problems in Indonesia, still become big four, anemia. And so what we can do with this developing issues of probiotics, microbiomes, with another nutritional issues raised in Indonesia, for that, we already have our second speaker. Hello to Dr. Rina Agustina, MSc, PhD. I would like to introduce, hello Doc. I would like, allow me to introduce you a little, Dr. Rina. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rina gained her medical doctor and master degree in Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia. In 2012, she got her PhD degree in Human Nutrition from Wageningen University, Netherlands. Currently, she is working as the head of Human Nutrition Research Center at the Indonesian Medical Education and Research Institute, IMERI, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Indonesia. And she is also a very good writer, proven by a lot of publication. Also, we can say that she is one of the first Indonesian researcher profiled in one of very highly prestigious publication journal. Lancet specifically profiled her as Rina Agustina Tracking Nutrition and Child Health. You can find it maybe on Google Scholar later on. And we also want to notice her as one of the brain behind all these interrelated topics today. From all of the speakers, we can see that the topics are very interrelating. Thank you for all your recommendations, Dr. Rina, suggestions. Thank you for bringing success to this event. And I also have to say that I feel so proud and lucky that she is Dr. Rina is my thesis advisor during my master study. So hello again, Dr. Rina. Today, Dr. Rina will share beneficial information on how probiotics and microbiome intake impact iron absorption, iron for iron deficiency anemia. So without any further ado, to Dr. Rina, time is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Rela, for a very beautiful introduction and also very important event today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's been an honor to be part of this nice, interactive, and also very important because this is done by young scientists, young generation, and I always be happy to support that. Okay, Sela, let me share my screen. I also want to greet Professor Murdani, Ibu Ega, and also Professor Patricia, all my very best friend all the time on this particular topic. Yeah, okay. Also, okay, I would like to thank to the Department of the Nutrition, and as well as the study program. And also, of course, thank you for all the other speakers and also the participants. So I was given the topic on the iron absorption, but I think it would be good to put that more general. So I then chose the topic on probiotics and gut microbiota on child growth, iron and zinc status. Yeah, so part of the things will be I will be talking about the general concept and what has been done by other countries and what actually the study that we have done on this particular area. We all know I would like to congratulate everyone because you are all super. Yes, we are super because we are super organism. So our body colonized by huge numbers of gut microbiota. And these all are actually very important for our health, as mentioned by Professor Murdani before. And one of the things that important is about the diet and the nutrition. So we know the diet, nutrition, very important for our metabolism. But at the same time, nutrition, a diet become also a signal. It's an environment. It's environmental factors that affect our bodies, not only from the metabolism point of view, but also on gut microbiota. So this is also mediated by many different aspects. One of that is actually production of the bioactive components such as short chain fatty acid or any amino acid and so on. And this actually will affect the not only on intestinal level but also on the other particular side of the body. Cause inflammation or infection. Yeah, so this is something which actually now become a very important area of science. As mentioned by previous Professor Murdani, we also know that the diet and also other environment affect the composition. And here we know that all the food that we have, antibiotics and all, even the climate change also affect interaction with the gut microbes, and on the interaction they produce this, they will actually affect the luminal conversion and also become a central bioreactor to produce bioactive component. So then microbiota derived metabolite will signal to distant level as then goes to not only a gut to the intestinal effect, but also gut to brain, to the lung, and also to other area of the organs, depending on what actually the metabolite will go and what kind of food that we have. Yeah. So then it was mentioned by Professor Murdani as well on this biosis. So the poor diet is taken, then will actually influence the imbalance of microbiota. But call it as the dysbiosis of gut biota. And this will increase the gut, tend to be leakage and also very sensitive to the invasion of the pathogen through this increased passage of lipopolysaccharide from the gram-negative colonic bacteria into the systemic circulation. Then this actually increase the predisposition of the disease phenotype and also susceptibility of the disease. Yeah. So let's see what kind of a diet that actually impact to the different, so the microbiota, but also the luminal conversion, the mucous layer, as well as the immune cell. So here, this each dietary component, yeah, so this is a very nice study mentioned about how they actually affect the changing of the gut microbiota diversity as well as the composition, which will impact to the epithelial barrier. So each has different type, so we can guess which one give a better effect. And of course, this influence the not only the commensal bacteria, but also cell immunophenotype and also pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory response. So if you look at here later on Mediterranean diet, for example, this give the better short chain fatty acid, which actually later can increase the intestinal bacterial integrity, and also some other things related to insulin sensitivity increment, but not on the Western diet. So, but how about the micronutrient related to this? Because we are going to talk about iron, then in fact, the micronutrients, vitamins, and trace element actually part of this complex diet, also together with the other nutrients, they actually, depending on how actually the condition of the gut integrity, they may affect better, but they can also affect the other way around. So we can see what will be there. So there's a nice, this picture really highlighted healthy diet contain whole grain, fresh fruit, vegetable, nuts, and that helps fight various disease because of this potential increasing of the gut integrity. So then it will improve the resistance to infection and also the other inflammatory recipe impact of that microbiota, micronutrient to gut microbiota. This is very relevant. Sorry, sometimes my internet connection is unstable, so just let me know. And because the high prevalence of stunting, wasting, and underweight, not only in children, but also in adolescents, and micronutrient deficiency, especially on pregnant women and also the adolescent girls. But now we also know anemia is also affected boys, and overweight obesity, which is increasing quite high, not only like 1 or 2 fold, but actually not only 1 fold, but also become 2 folds, which actually quite dramatically accelerated in the past 5 years. So this is very important then how we can link to the gut microbiota. So we should know for the microbiota diversity is actually different from age to age. Yeah, so they are actually very much differs depending on a lot of factors. Of course, the age, the ethnic group, the geographical, and also the lifestyle. So, but here we see that all the life cycles showing that how important the diet. So, and we see the more exposed to the environment and the more exposed to various diet, of course, it's also reflecting to the various relative abundance and also diversity of the microbes. So this is one of the study showing the micronutrient deficiency really affect the configuration of the human gut microbiota in a mice model. So here we see that the change in the relative abundance of the commensal and the pathogen, which actually showing the direction that micronutrient deficiency reduce the abundance of the beneficial microbes. And following this, there's a study also done which actually showed the essential role of the gastrointestinal microbiota on the vital function in human body. They actually influence from starting even from the early life. So micronutrient deficiency during the critical first 1,000 days windows in children, they will may lead to the impairment of the maturation of gut microbiota. So the maturation of gut microbiota will actually affect the maturation of immune system. So the abnormal community structure and also will impact to the function, so abnormal function. So this is actually very important to have a very good micronutrients even in early life on the pregnant women and even before that. Yeah. So now let's talk about the iron. We all need iron. So this planet needs the iron. We are as a human need the iron, but the microbes also need the iron. And this actually a very important study to see how actually iron has a direct impact on the host microbiota interaction via altering microbial or viral growth, also acting as a host immune system and drafting a range of a chemical process, which is critical to sustain life. The research on iron to gut microbiota and probiotics are very controversial and actually goes to the direction which actually we have to be careful on seeing that, and also be careful when we actually give the iron, because this really depending on the condition of the individual. Yeah. Okay. So the question is, if there's a highly interactive host microbe interface of the human gastrointestinal, which also affected by the iron, how is the dynamic modulation of intestinal microbiota by iron availability? And conversely, the influence on dietary iron absorption in the gut and the effect of the luminal iron host microbe interaction in the context of the whole human health and disease. So there's some study. We know that if you look at this overview of iron absorption metabolism. It's involved in the gut. It's really clear and involved enterocyte, hepatocyte, macrophage, erythroid marrow, and also, of course, this will interact to the existing of the gut microbiota. So Yilmaz and Lee found that there's a microbial and metabolic change in the colonic human after oral iron administration. So iron administration iron has the impact on the alteration of microbial composition. Yeah, is it in a positive or in negative direction? So some studies show in a negative direction, which can reduce the beneficial microbes and also the giving the favorable environment to the growing of the pathogen or the pathogen. And this can also provide the opportunity for expansion of the enteric pathogen. So not surprising, iron can promote the replication and virulence of the gut enteric pathogen like Salmonella, Shigella, Campylobacter. So, and heme-rich diet decrease gut microbiota diversity, the beneficial one. So this study is showing that, but this is not always consistent like this. So it means that it suggests that giving iron may give an adverse effect to the gut microbiota, and in turn it also will affect to the gut immunity and so on. So but the study is not always consistent. Yeah. So now this actually highlight, it really depends on the situation of the gut. Yeah. So if the gut in a healthy condition, then the gut microbiota really relies on this iron. They need this iron. Yeah. So especially the low molecular weight iron, the chelator. Yeah. So for receptor mediated iron uptake, the most common zero force in is actually the enterobactin. So this enterobactin, bacterium, very important on this mechanism. And in healthy stage, actually, it's okay. They will need it, and the effect is not into the adverse effect. But when the condition of intestinal inflammation is there, so the children may be infection, the pregnant women get infection, they get malaria, so there's actually the distortion of the cell lining of that intestine. So this actually will give the opportunity for potential growing of the pathogen. So because pathogen really like the iron, so they can grow, they can eat them when they are dominant, and then they become very adversely affected. So when it is actually in the condition of this one. So the lipocalin-2 secretion from epithelial and miliary cell is actually upregulated. So this lipocalin-2 reduce iron availability for gut microbiota, and they binding the enterobactin and then impairing the enterobactin mediated iron acquisition. So pathogen, they do not strictly rely on enterobactin for iron uptake, and so they can gain advantage from the calin-2 mediated commensal growth, so they can then hamper the excretion of glucose-related variants of the enterobactin, which then not bind by lipocalin-2, and then they can actually growing very best in this environment. So it's also the same when they give the polyphenol, which can bind iron, which actually strongly affected also the polyphenol reduce the iron bioavailability, and in turn actually mediated by the role of the variety of increment or reduction of the microbial beneficial microbes. Yeah. Okay, so so this is one of the study in Africa during the weaning process of different baby. Yeah, they found that actually the gut flora was changed by fortification of iron. So there's having consequences of the reduction in number of Bifidobacteria. So if you look at here, they give 12.5 milligram of the iron on their composition of multi-micronutrient, and actually affect the reduction of commensal bacteria, Bifidobacteria, enterobacteria, and also this showing that this fortification increased the fecal calprotectin level, which actually means that the gut inflammation also increasing. Yeah. So this actually, they first look at, there's a big difference between the anemic versus non-anemic Kenyan infants. There's a baseline gut microbiota composition showing the difference of both, so from the baseline. And then later, when they follow up for 4 months, they then found that the micronutrient fortification over 3 months in Kenya infants potentially alter the gut microbiota. So this is actually consistent with some studies showing when the mothers then they get iron, the malaria is even much more. So because the composition of the pathobion and the pathogen are actually increasing. So it means that the micronutrient with the iron, with the addition of iron, firstly affect the colonization potential beneficial microbes and attenuated the decreased potential pathogen. Following this, then they compare the this is a very nice graph showing the comparison of the additional iron and significantly higher abundance of Clostridium, Escherichia coli, and Shigella, we known to be non-beneficial microbes. And this abundance, of course, mediated by iron-containing micronutrient to these weaning infants, which adversely affect the beneficial microbes. And but the other study also showing differently. For example, iron level drops and also intestinal infection can occur. So this is, we know that because we need the iron, because the influence of that microbiota composition. And study conducted of young women in South India correlated low iron level with low level of lactobacillus infestus, and actually giving the increased potential of infection. So this actually showing the other way around. Okay, now let's see what the severe anemia. Severe anemia also increased gut permeability, and they also putting a chance to the potential changing of the gut microbiota. So both deficiency and excess of iron actually very much influence the dysbiosis of the composition of gut microbiota. So now, what is the role of probiotics? So probiotics, actually mentioned by previous speakers, are very important in many aspects. It's also including on the iron related and also zinc status. So here we know this has to be very strain specific. So each will give a different aspect. So we did the study, screened 4,000 children and randomly allocated almost 500 children. We actually assigned for low calcium milk, regular calcium milk, and regular calcium milk with lactobacillus casei 431 and regular milk calcium with Reuteri DSM 17398. So this is published in a very high impact journal, Pediatrics. So what we found here is actually the probiotics type, which is actually represented here, especially on Reuteri, actually reduced the incidence of diarrhea or reported diarrhea by 32%, with very high effect size, WHO defined diarrhea by 24%, and particularly strong effect in children with lower nutritional status. And then we look at what would be the impact on acute respiratory infection. However, we do not find any significant difference from both, but so the study actually benefit more to the diarrhea. And the summary is actually means that this probiotics significantly reduced incidence of reported diarrhea, but not all probiotics is showing the same, because we have these two type of probiotics, but they actually act differently. And then we follow up what is actually then this effect to the growth and also iron and zinc status. So then we look at height and weight gain velocity, changes in height and weight for age score, and also the prevalence of wasting and stunting. And then we also look at what is actually their impact on anemia prevalence, the iron status, zinc status, the inflammation marker, routine hematology, and also nutrient intake. So from this, we actually have some hypothesis. If the children getting the probiotics, whether it's L-casei or Reuteri, and these probiotics added to the milk, which actually contain calcium, they would improve the growth and also zinc and iron status, improve digestibility and nutrient uptake by intestinal cell, and maybe beneficial in malnutrition when gut function is impaired. But the other way around, when it's on, there's a potential reduction of calcium. So milk calcium alone would reduce iron and zinc status. But if they combine together with probiotics, maybe the other way around, because calcium precipitate the iron and zinc and may inhibit their bioavailability, but giving the probiotics may actually hinder this potential adverse effect. So what is the result? So what we found actually, first, the intake. On the intake of these 4 groups, actually quite similar, but there's of course the change on calcium because of the other getting regular calcium, but the other one is not. And then the fecal, this is also similar to fecal calcium excretion, so which actually showing a beneficial effect. So on the other hand, what then on the growth? So we here found that all children grow normally. So, but if you look at here, the one who get the rotary, they actually grow better. They grow their weight, their height. So here, the weight for ISO score actually much better on rotary compared to the other group, but not on the height for ISO score. And so here we found that actually on the weight and weight for ISO score are quite good. Seeing on the one which get the rotary. And the most important one in the study, rotary can reduce the stunting for 10%. From 31 to become 20. So it's really a great achievement from rotary, but actually the CASE is also the same. So giving the probiotics both actually very important for stunting reduction as well as to the rotary, especially on the underweight. So it's actually better, but not actually consistent on CASE. Rotary is very consistent on this aspect. So they get reduced incidence of diarrhea, they also improve the growth, and at the same time, we see that there's a very important interaction between that. Then later, we want to see what is actually the impact on iron and zinc. So then here, this is our product. We give this probiotics into the straw, and the children drink, yeah. And what we found is actually on various blood parameters, the hemoglobin, serum ferritin, and serum TFR, we did not find any significant difference between groups, although there's a significant difference within groups. So the prevalence of anemia and deficiency, surprisingly, is actually increasing. So although it is not significant, in all groups it's increasing, maybe because they are growing, so they need more iron, and also the iron deficiency also increasing, also the iron deficiency anemia, but this might be because they need more iron during the growing after 6 months of intervention. So what happened with serum zinc and prevalence of zinc deficiency? We also do not find any difference, although we actually see there's a reduction of the zinc, but then increasing of the prevalence of zinc in rotary. It's also maybe because they're growing. Yeah. So we don't know whether it is because of the probiotics of the which actually there, or the calcium, which is not very seen from this study. So it means that the rotary and the CASE, they actually improve growth. Yeah, a small effect on the CASE, but calcium did not affect growth. Yeah, much as well as the as seen on the probiotics. And the probiotic strain did not reduce anemia prevalence or improve iron zinc status because it doesn't see any significant difference. Milk calcium did not negatively affect anemia prevalence or the iron and zinc status in this study. So this is what we actually then hypothesized, that probiotics reduce diarrhea, increase absorption of nutrients, improve immunity, and also stimulate the growth hormone, which actually very important for the growing. Yeah. So maybe the time is already finalized, Marcella. I still have time?
Yes, ma'am. I think, yeah. Okay, you can.
This is just my last 2 slides. So we already know in the beginning, so how important is how actually the effect of iron to gut microbiota, and how actually the probiotics in some studies showing the adverse the giving the iron first to the gut microbiota, some study not. and our study did not find any impact on the iron and zinc status. But here we see some studies very need to be confirmed because most studies are not big enough. I think it's only very limited study which is quite big in many area. So here we see that the on the type of deficiency, when they are deficient, so there's a type of lactobacillus plantarum. It is mostly lactobacillus plantarum, and they actually found that this iron bioavailability consistent in some studies. So either they give on the beverage part or in the pure or fermented milk. So the iron bioavailability and absorption is improving. This actually found on this particular intervention. So it's also for the L-fermentum, which actually improved the iron absorption, but it has no specific information how actually this affect the iron and zinc status or the growth of the particular population. This is also the same on this acidulus, for example, which actually improved the ferritin formatin, and also the bifidobacterium bifidum, which actually improve the apparent iron absorption, but indeed not all giving the information on how this actually affect the iron and zinc status and growth and also the infection, and which also show here the probiotics make sure supplementation influence the iron metabolism in obese. Conclude is actually these probiotics, especially on the lactobacillus plantarum, they help the prevention of deficiency anemia because they dietary non-heme iron absorption. Yeah, so actually dominated not on the heme iron, but actually they improve the non-heme iron absorption in the active Caucasian European, but there's no study in Asian population. And this plantarum also for the treatment iron deficiency, pediatric patient, they do not find favorable for iron absorption because the potential low dose ferrous sulfate was administered to the children, so it's not much of dosage without probiotics. The research observed no significant difference regarding serum ferritin level in subject taking the probiotics plantarum 299. No association was made also for ferritin and probiotic use, as actually seen from the other study showing in the previous table. So I think I would end now with conclusion. Is that the gut microbiota composition strongly affect human health. A healthy intestinal microbiota is vital and essential to human health. Diet plays an important role in shaping gut microbiota diversity. Orally administered iron has a direct impact on alteration of microbial composition in the gut. Probiotics formulation can be employed to achieve the desired iron concentration, but not all probiotics showing the same. Study reveal multiple mechanisms through which this formulation can help in regulating the iron deficiency. However, before implementing the routine use of probiotics for child growth improvement or to iron and zinc status, I suggest to conduct another efficacy study and also effectiveness. It's really a strain specific depending on what kind of probiotics they are taking. So last but not least, I would like to acknowledge all the parties involved in these studies, 7 different institutions, and have no financial relation to this article or presentation of any probiotics mentioned in this study. Thank you. This is our study right now in our Human Nutrition Research Center, which will be hopefully presented next year about the impact of the probiotics and omega-3 fatty acid to the life, starting from the trimester second to until 2 years old. So we include already 300 pregnant women, and then we assess the imaging of their fetal brain as well as the cognitive function. And hopefully we can present it next time. Thank you very much once again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr. Rina Agustina, thank you very much for the very outstanding, fascinating presentation. It was very fruitful, mindful. That was a very interesting interconnection between gut microbiota and how child growing, and then also the absorption of nutrients and how different profiles of probiotics, microbiota can also provide different effects symbiotically to humans' body. Micronutrients deficiency, as you say, can delay microbiota maturation on the body and then also lead to impaired immunity development. Then when we talk to impaired immunity or low immunity, then it comes anemia. And then when we talk about iron deficiency, it leads again to microbiota profiles in our gut. And so the interconnection is very interesting to be studied. And also a very nice study of you, the one that you present from Pediatrics Journal. I think there is still plenty from what you just explained. There's plenty of room to be studied, maybe from this young generation scientists to develop more studies on this any types of gut microbiota and probiotics. Thank you very much, Dr. Rina Agustina. What I can say is maybe we are waiting for your professor inauguration announcement soon, Dr. Rina, and we will be back to you shortly. Thank you very much for waiting. But for now, we will continue to our last but not least very special guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, participants, I would like also to remind you again, if you have any questions to previous topics, to Dr. Rina or to Ibu Yusra, you can address it in Q&A box. I see some questions already addressed, and now let me go to our third speaker today. Our third speaker, Professor Patricia Conway. She is a Bachelor of Science at University of Queensland, continuing Master qualifying at University of Queensland, and then Master of Science also at University of Queensland, and then she continue her PhD from UNSW, University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia. She is visiting professor at Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, adjunct professor at UNSW, Australia, and chief scientist and founder of PC Biome Pty Ltd, Singapore. Prof. Conway has successfully combined basic research and translation application for over 30 years by being affiliated with university at the basic research by working closely with also industry while being the university employee. That was a perfect experience combination, I think. Patricia's research interests are gastrointestinal microbiology, probiotics, and prebiotics, with particular emphasis on bacterial colonization and functional within the gastrointestinal tract. She has focused on mechanism of bacterial adhesion, pathogen inhibition, and immune modulation in animals and human, and the impact of the gut microbiota on health. In particular, health conditions linked to inflammation, infection, and metabolic disorder, and developing intervention strategies for improving humans' health, especially in infants and elderly. The two very fragile group of ages. So today, Prof. Conway will talk about those topics in her field of expertise by having the topics on the role of probiotics and microbiomes on immunity, especially on this recent time during the COVID-19 pandemics. So without any further ado, I will give the session to Professor Conway. Time is yours, Professor.
Thank you so much. And where is my PowerPoint?
It's okay, Prof. Take your time.
I put it onto full screen so that it was nice and large. Yes, here we go.
Okay.
And if I put it on now, projection mode, can you see my screen?
Not yet. I think not yet. How about the other committees? You can do a share screen?
Yeah, I went into share screen.
I cannot see.
You
Sorry.
cannot see? Okay, then I will see. I'll close
Have you
it.
clicked? Yes. Have you clicked the share screen box already? Yeah.
I did, but it obviously isn't working. So if I exit and I go back into share screen, share.
Yes, now I think it works.
Excellent.
Yes, it worked. Excellent. Time is
There's
yours.
so many systems these times with Zooms and Google meetings, and they're all slightly different. Okay, there we go. Can you see my first slide now?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Well,
excellent.
It's certainly a pleasure to be part of this symposium, and I sincerely thank the committee and the organisers and RENA for putting on such a comprehensive program that is all-encompassing for probiotics and microbiomes. And I'll focus, I'll just rehash a little on probiotics and microbiomes as presented by our previous speakers, and then with the emphasis on immunity and how it applies to COVID. So just to rehash, probiotics, they're a preparation of live, defined microorganisms. And I'm so pleased the way Yusra presented it, because it's so important that they're defined, they're in sufficient numbers, and they exhibit beneficial effects. And the Prof. Madani raised the issue of if they're not live, then they're not probiotics, but they're rather postbiotics. So bear this in mind when I talk probiotics, it's a very general term, and in fact, they're not general. So there's, as Yusra mentioned also, there are very many different probiotic preparations these days. There's the standard ones, which we're all very familiar with, which are often a lactobacillus or a bifidobacteria in pure culture or in mixed cultures. And also we need to not only specify the genus, which is, for example, lactobacillus, and species, which is Acidophilus, but we also need to specify the strain, for example, GG, because as we are all Homo sapiens, we're all very different in our capacities to do things. So we need to be sure it's the strain. So when we say probiotics can do this or probiotics can do that, we really need to be specifying which particular strains can do it. And some of the newer organisms that are being used as probiotics. So, and as the scanning electron micrograph at the base, they all look very different. Like people, we all look very different. So different preparations have different mechanisms of action. So one may be effective against the immune system, others effective against bacterial pathogens. So generally, probiotics can be used for a range of applications, but once again, it's strain and dose dependent. They can be, as we have already heard, they can restore or achieve gut homeostasis, modulate the immune system, and down-regulate inflammation, decrease infection, neurological conditions, metabolic conditions, improving growth and development, as we've just heard. But it's well-documented probiotic strains can protect against infection and potentially assist in reducing the non-communicable diseases that today's society, and especially in the Western world, is plagued with. So let's look at focusing the application of probiotics to the respiratory tract. This is a systematic review that was published in 2005, a Cochrane systematic review, where they looked at 13 randomized controlled clinical trials. And the conclusion from that was that probiotics were better than the placebo placebo because there were fewer episodes of acute upper respiratory tract infections, in fact, 47% less. There was a shortened duration of acute upper respiratory tract symptoms by almost 2 days. And there was a slight reduction in antibiotic use and cold-related school absences. Having said that, generally, that was across the number of studies which used different probiotics and different protocols. They looked at children and elderly. And generally, the profile in children was one particular organism, Lactobacillus GG, and the elderly and the adults, it was a couple of a KCI strain, but another KCI strain had no benefit. So this sort of highlights the importance of that strain designation and the target group. So this systematic review confirmed that it was host and probiotic strain specific, and that there are probiotic strains that can reduce upper respiratory tract infections in the young, the elderly, and adults. But not every commercially available probiotic strain is going to do that. Another meta-analysis, this was also conducted in 2016, and there were 23 double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trials carried out. So with over 6,000 children in the study, and it was from 0 to 18 years. And there were also 4 trials that had otitis media with probiotics, which also had respiratory tract infections reported. There were mixtures of different probiotic strains used. And overall, probiotic consumption appears to be a feasible way to decrease the incidence of respiratory tract infections in children. The number of children having at least one respiratory tract infection episode was decreased. The days of infection per person were decreased, and the days of absence for school were also decreased. So from these reviews over a number of different studies, there is clear evidence that probiotics can be effective in assisting respiratory tract infections. So now let's go back to the gut microbiome. As Prof. Madani excellently presented, we have lots of microbes in our intestine. In fact, we have more microbes than humans. And as Rena presented, what we eat is influencing the microbes, and they are affecting our health. So it's not only just a big pot of microbes, but throughout the gut, the microbes differ in the various regions. And the microbes that are there, as we've already heard, are influenced by host factors and external factors. So the diet, medications, but the host factors we really need to consider. In addition to gastric acid and oxygen levels, mucus secretions, and gastrointestinal tract secretions, a really important part is the immune secretions. And for example, secretory IgA. Most importantly, 70% of the immune sampling sites of the body, of the entire body, are in the intestine. So this is why that component has a huge impact, not only on the microbes, but also on the host. So let's look at that in a little more detail. It's called the gut-associated lymphoid tissues, or GALT. And we know there's these finger-like projections of the villi of the intestine. And within the contents, there are the microbes that we've been hearing about. Within the host epithelial mucosa are these, for example, Peyer's patches. They're intestinal immune sampling cells. So it's these sampling cells of the immune system that are identifying the bacterial proteins, the microbes that are there, and via antigen-presenting cells, delivering them from the intestine into the underlying T cells and B cells of the immune system. Now, these underlying T cells and B cells are naive. They're like soldiers waiting for their instructions as to what can they do to help the body. Once they gain their instruction from those microbes that are there via these antigen-presenting cells to the T cells and B cells, they're transported through the body via the lymph, the circulatory system and the blood to the various mucosal sites in the body. So these are all the mucosal sites in the body. We've got digestive tract, respiratory tract, nasal cavity, vagina, urinary tract, mammary glands, and skin. So clearly, a triggering of the microbiome, the microbes in the intestine, via this process, which we call the common mucosal immune system, because it's delivering to all mucosal sites in the body triggers that are happening from within the intestinal tract. So that activation of T cells and B cells, what does that mean? The B cells and T cells, they're releasing the cytokines, the hormones of the immune system, and the immunoglobulins, the protective immunoglobulins. So activation of these can lead to less immunoglobulin E, which means less allergy, more immunoglobulin A and G, less infection. And the IgA is the non-specific protective immunoglobulin. Really importantly, especially with the COVID, as we will be discussing, you get altered cytokines, so you can downregulate and get less inflammation. So the microbes here are affecting the various sites in the body by impacting on both protective immunoglobulins and also inflammatory cytokines. We know there are many diseases linked to inflammation in the body, and a great percentage of these are in the elderly. In addition to the inflammatory diseases, there's the metabolic diseases, of which obesity and diabetes. And these are linked. So it's inflammation is the trigger for both of these. Microbes are triggering inflammation. In rodent studies, in mice, the gut contents or the stools of obese and non-obese have been introduced into mice, and the microbial profile of those obese and non-obese subjects showed that the ratio of two groups of organisms, the Firmicutes and the Bacteroides, is grossly different in the obese compared to the control. So the Firmicutes is greatly enhanced in the obese subjects. So the microbes are playing an important role in inflammation and metabolic diseases. There's also the gut-brain axis, where signals from the brain to the gut are affecting how the gut is functioning, and also the microbes that are there. But also the microbes are sending messages to the brain. So it's a two-way gut-brain axis that's impacting on the health, and also cytokine-driven. And when we're talking cytokines subsequently in COVID, the cytokines that are involved in the gut-brain axis are also involved in the COVID storm that I'll be discussing later. The gut microbiome and cardiovascular disease. The host has enzymes to break down diet, and as we're showing here, but in addition, there's a gut microbes are producing the enzymes that can convert the colon in the meat metabolism into TMAO, which has been linked to cardiovascular disease. So microbes are playing an important role across many of the diseases. Because we're talking the immune and respiratory, I thought I'd present this study, which is an animal study, newborn mice, where they clearly showed the strength of the gut-lung axis, because the commensal organisms in the gut of the intestine triggered the immune system such that it influenced and prevented the proliferation of a pathogen in the lung. So the commensals are driving the lung immune defense in the newborn mice. So this is setting up the scene that it's worth looking at. Can this also play an important role in COVID? So to explain that question, this is the gut microbiome and the ecosystem as a whole. There's many stresses, including the introduction of the COVID virus. Lifestyle choices and diet are impacting the stability and hence the microbes. If we can modulate, for example, with probiotics and diet, we can balance the dysbiosis, as we've heard already discussed, to have homeostasis, which can lead to improved health across the digestive tract, metabolic, immune, and also neurological conditions. So, as Rena elegantly presented earlier, the microbiome is not stable, it's constantly changing. So it's almost non-existent in the newborn baby. These donuts are using profiling the microbes that are there. So you can see just the groups of microbes, the colors indicate which microbes there are there. So with age, there are less diversity of the microbiome as opposed to the healthy child. And you can see the obese differs from the healthy. So it's not just as with the probiotics. There's many probiotics. The microbiome is changing and it's influenced by many parameters. So let's now look at the COVID story. This graph plots the incidence of mortality with age, mortality linked to COVID-19. So there's, we know in the newspaper tell us this, the elderly are much more predisposed to it, but the elderly also have a simpler, less diverse gut microbiome. And there's changes in the microbial population, and there's also immune senescence. It's a wonderful term, aging. In other words, aging, there is much more inflammation. And apart from the inflammatory responses, the immunoglobulin responses are decreasing. So this group of subjects is setting itself up to be more predisposed to the virus. But we can't say that simply because there's a correlation between the microbiome is less diverse and more people are dying. It's also linked, it's linked to the diseases that the elderly are suffering from, which is associated with the COVID infections. So I won't describe this in detail, but I want to flag the importance of the receptor for the virus. So we know that people sneeze, the virus is transmitted, and it enters the lungs of a nearby person. The virus has, I'm sure you've heard, a spike protein on it. And it's the spike protein that they're developing the antibodies to protect us from it. What's important to understand is the spike protein locks on, for example, like a lock and key mechanism, to a receptor called the ACE2 receptor. And it's actually a receptor complex with the PRSS2. So it's this complex, the receptor complex, that allows the virus to effectively dock in and thereby enter the lungs. This little schematic on the left-hand side is to actually highlight this ACE2 receptor is common in many organs of the body. And the virus has been picked up in all of those organs of the body where it's illustrated. So the virus, once it enters via the receptor, it causes a cascade of inflammatory responses because the body is trying to fight against it. And those inflammatory cytokines that come in are referred to as a cytokine storm. It causes lung permeability. The virus can enter the bloodstream and thereby into the gut system. So I think I've got an easier to read graphic on the next one. Well, this is more schematic. It's proposed to explain why the elderly are more predisposed to mortality. The virus is illustrated here, docks onto the receptor, which is the ACE2. And there are two arms to it. There's the RAS-dependent, which is the systemic one. RAS is the renin angiotensin system. And there's the RAS-independent system, which is the gut. With the RAS-dependent, there's an imbalance with the ACE2 affected by the virus. There's an imbalance in this system, which is normally balanced. And the enzymes are then, the balance is shifted such that you're getting injury in the lungs rather than healthy tissue. And that in itself releases into the gut and induces gut dysbiosis. And in the gut, we also have the ACE2 receptor and also an amino acid transporter. So the receptor acts as a chaperone for the amino acid transporter in the gut, thereby disturbing the gut system as a whole, leading to the leaky gut. The outcome is you get impaired systemic immune responses, you get a cytokine storm, which I think we've all heard about in the media as well. So it's exacerbated inflammatory status, which leads to poor outcomes in the elderly. And the complex of the receptor with the amino acid transporter has been shown to regulate the gut microbiota composition and function. For example, immune responses against viruses. So this is an article which I recommend reading. It's a review, it's a simplified schematic of the virus entering the lungs, hyperactive immune response, and damaging the production of inflammatory cytokines. We've got the cytokine storm that we're talking about, the viruses entering the gut. And once again, we have that same receptor complex in the gut, which is altering the gut immune response and the microbiome composition. And as Professor Mandani mentioned, there is altered microbiome composition in patients with COVID. But the question is, what I was trying to address with this is it, which comes first? Is it that the microbiome is altered, which increases the severity of the cytokine storm? This is some interesting results from a study using germ-free, the GF, or the specific pathogen-free mice. In other words, the SPF mice have gut microbes and microbes across their various organs, and the germ-free have no microbes. And it's the expression of the receptor with higher numbers, meaning there's more of the receptor for that spike protein of the virus. As you can see, in the absence of microbes, every organ has greater capacity to accommodate that spike protein of the virus, whereas the presence of microbes is decreasing the availability of that receptor for the virus. And interesting, the fact that that ACE2 is the receptor and its inflammatory cytokines that are the drivers for the severe conditions of COVID, a lot of drugs are being developed that are targeting those cytokines of the immune system, the cytokines that are being influenced by the gut microbes. So drugs that can have, or antibodies have a negative impact on the particular cytokines that are causing the problem. So then, of course, instead of drugs, can we use the microbiome and probiotics to have the same effect? Because we know the microbiome triggers the immune response and also can be triggered to produce anti-inflammatory cytokines. So this particular study that I mentioned earlier, it's a review article, and they're looking at they've identified there's a key role of the microbiota in the activation of the innate and the adaptive immune response against viral infections generally. So there's a potential. While there is no clinical evidence that targeting the microbiome and lung-gut axis is an effective therapeutic strategy for COVID-19 infections, it was concluded that the use of probiotics may reduce inflammation, maintain gut biodiversity, and support the immune system, thereby having a protective and a beneficial effect. But at the moment, additional studies are needed to confirm, but the results are promising. So looking at probiotics and the application for prevention and treatment of COVID-19, they reviewed several clinical studies for the use of probiotics to prevent or treat respiratory infections generally. And it was shown that there were promising benefits for probiotics in reducing the risk of COVID-19. However, more studies are needed to assess probiotics to prevent or cure COVID-19. So they concluded that probiotics could help prevent COVID-19 by maintaining the human gastrointestinal tract and lung microbiome, because dysbiosis plays a major role in the susceptibility of people to infectious diseases. But we need to add, but different probiotic preparations have different mechanisms of action, and not all probiotics are the same. So in summary, the main points I'd like to emphasize is that probiotics can enhance immune activity and the clearance of respiratory tract infections. The microbiome can enhance immune responses and downregulate inflammation. The microbiome can reduce receptors for the COVID spike protein. So with these facts, one can suggest that probiotics and the microbiome are promising for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19. So I'd like to close with a wonderful comment from Professor Mudani. I really liked it. Probiotics and the microbiome are medicines for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Conway. A very excellent presentation. We have 3 presentations with our keynote, so it's 4 very excellent presentations, fruitful informations, especially linking on the activity of microbiota and then probiotics with the COVID-19 disease during these pandemics. So emphasizing that you're suggesting probiotics is one of the potential to treat and prevent also COVID-19. It is very interesting. You also always put on your diagram that the diet or lifestyle is also important. So when we have better lifestyle, and then we have modulation of probiotics, hopefully it can improve health, increase our immunity, and how the probiotics can increase the activation of the T and B cell, and in some mechanism it can push giving less inflammation to our body, especially on the cytokine activation. While when we talk about COVID-19, in your previous mechanism pathway of COVID-19, also one of the very uncontrollable condition of COVID-19 in the patient is the cytokine storm. So it was a very great explanation on how it linked. Thank you very much once again, Professor Conway. So we will go to the discussion session. However, the committee already tell me that we have a very least time to have this discussion. Thank you very much, Dr. Rina, to answer one question directly in the Q&A box. I will open the discussion session, maybe starting from our first speaker, to Ibu Yusra. So the question is from Desi Irawati. She asks, is there any limit for consuming fermented and probiotic food, and what will happen when someone consume excess fermented and probiotics food? Probably in our angka kecukupan gizi, we have limitation, we have recommendation on how much we have to consume probiotics, on how much we have to consume some nutrients. How about probiotics? In Indonesia, do we have recommendations, or do you have any view about this, Ibu Yusra?
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you also. I forgot the name. Okay, about the question regarding the how much we can consume the fermented food. Actually, fermented food, one of our kind of food that we consume, that widely consume. I think for the fermented food is similar with the other food, yeah, as long as in line with the balanced diet. Balanced diet. I think there is no limitation actually, as long as we eat refer to the principle of balanced diet, as already guided by Ministry of Health, I think, for the fermented food, because fermented food one of our traditional food, and as you know, talking about food, there is no dosage to consume food. This is only the serving a suggestion per day, something like that. However, for the probiotic food, the limit or how much we can consume depend on the outcome that already can be seen with based on the scientific evidence that already supported the probiotic food, whether it is suggest maybe twice a day or 3 days a day, depend on the outcome of the study, that the probiotic may give the beneficial effect of the human. So there is no general limitation here for all kind of probiotic food, depend on the strength and depend of the evidence of the probiotic food. Maybe that's all. Maybe other speakers can maybe edit some explanation or some views about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Yusra. Maybe for this question, maybe Dr. Rina can also give some her point of view about this. And then another question. Oh, it missed. Oh, okay. Before I go back again, there's another question to Ibu Yusra, but because of limitation of time, I will try to go to another speakers first, and then if we still have time, I'll go to Basima, the question from Basima. But now I will go to the question from Gia Cinta Archangela first. Do all probiotics have the same function, or do certain probiotics have their own main function towards our gut microbiome? I think you already mentioned a little about specific function of each microbiota, and maybe a little point of view about how much we have to consume probiotic each day. Is it a must or how? Thank you, Dr. Rina.
Okay, thank you. Very nice question, very important as well. So basically, when we talk about probiotics is really strain specific. So it means that they have a different function. They also have different efficacy. Although the information on the safety might be similar, but really depending on the outcomes that we are talking about. So, for example, the study that I presented, I have 2 different probiotics which independently tested, and it shows that they act or behave differently toward the reduction of incidence of diarrhea, growth, and also the other particular biomarker. Although I did not present it all, and this study was actually also follow up for 10 years. So we actually also just published the paper in Nature, and showing that it's also, when we look at the other outcome, they actually act differently as well. For example, on the obese related, the casein seems to be working more, but the reuteri seems to be much more related to the increased resistance to infection, which actually then later improve also the growth. So when we look at also on the iron absorption, or perhaps also many other biomarker, they also different way of functioning. So it's the essence that not all probiotics the same. So some this may be similar function, but many others are actually different.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rina. a very nice answer, like from your study in pediatrics journal, what you mentioned, LKC is more beneficial probably for children, reducing incident of diarrhea, while we see in Professor Conway presentation, LKC for adult and elderly probably give a different result. So that was a very nice interaction once again between the microbiome, relation between microbiome and human. Thank you very much, Dr. Rina. Maybe I'll
just to
another
give,
question.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay.
It's okay.
Another question about maybe you have another point of view about the amount of probiotics daily, or
Oh, okay.
please continue.
But just to make a correction, the one that more giving the effect on the resistant to infection or diarrhea incidence is the Rotaraya in our study, not the Kasei. But on the Kasei, later after 10 years follow up, they actually act much more on relation to obesity. So although this seems to be not very consistent, but this is what we found. So about the dosage, again, this is very strain specific, but if you look at from the WHO document and also many studies, it usually the 10 power to 8 to 10 power to 11 are mostly the study actually showing the effect depending on what type of the strain. Our study used the 5 times 10 power to 8 and then giving 2 times, it means at 10 power to 9. And it seems to be more beneficial, yeah, than again, depending on the outcomes that we are looking for. For example, I also did a study in hospital-based. I did not present it today. This require a higher dosage because it might be different type of strain that we are using. So 10 power to 11, but the objective are different. So this is actually really as an for reduction diarrhea to those who have moderate dehydration. So it really depends on the type of the strain. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Professor Patricia can also give some more feedback on this one. She's very experienced on this.
Thank you very much.
I really liked your answer. It was perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rina, Prof. Conway. Maybe if you have any other point of view, Prof. Conway, you can also address it. And also, I will raise another question for you from Raisa Azhar, Universitas Indonesia. Sorry. It's from Anissa Damayanti. While the use of probiotics may reduce inflammation and support the immune system, is probiotics now already being used as the treatment of COVID, to treat COVID, as COVID medicine is now still none except vaccines? Do you have...
At the moment, there are many clinical studies in progress to see the benefits of probiotics in COVID infections, but none have been completed yet because once, even though it seems like we've been in COVID since forever, it takes time to get clinical studies registered and progressed. And so you can go into a clinical trial register and see just how many studies are in progress. But at the moment, there are no results available for it. So at the moment, it's sure it will benefit your immune system and provide you some protection, but there is no clinical evidence at this stage of any particular strains being efficacious because we don't have the timeline for it.
Thank you very much. Excellent answer, Professor Patricia. Another very interesting question, maybe again addressed to you, Professor, from Jihan Farhana. What interesting from your presentation, previously you explained that elderly was very prone to COVID. We see that the mortality increased by the increasing of age and have a low level of microbiota diversity on the gut. So how to help tackle this issue? Is it enough to fulfill the elderly needs only through food consumptions? Or maybe we have to provide them with daily probiotics consumption? Prof. Conway.
Yeah, I think as the other two speakers in this session have highlighted, that the fermented foods, the probiotics, but one thing I didn't mention because I stuck to probiotics is also the prebiotics, which are the non-digestible carbohydrates, which are not utilized by the human host, but reach the gut microbes and are selectively utilized by the beneficial microbes. So prebiotics are also added to the diet, and prebiotics are in lots of vegetables. And fiber, elevated dietary fiber intake has a beneficial effect on the gut microbiome. So basically, and the Mediterranean diet is known to have a beneficial effect on parameters linked to the aging and also the microbiome. So fresh foods, fruit and vegetable, high dietary fiber, Mediterranean diet is the best thing we can do to help the microbiome, which in turn will help reduce the severity of some of the conditions of the.
Okay, thank you very much. Very enlightening for us. We are still on the pandemics. We have parents, they are elderly already, and I think this is a very nice discussion and information. Prof. Patricia, I think I still have time. The committees haven't called me yet. Okay, so maybe. Thank you very much, Dr. Rina. You are very helping with the time. You answer a lot of questions already. Maybe I go back a little to Ibu Yusra. We still have a little time. Is there any Is there any recommendation on how to consume the fermented milk? So not talking specifically talking about the fermented milk. Like maybe it have to be consumed after eating, before eating, or else. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the nice question. Actually, if the company would like to claim when the product may be better to be consumed, I think based on the scientific data. Yeah, actually, I don't have any idea. Yeah, when we are better to consume the fermented food, whether before, after, or during the meal. But based on our food habits, for example, in some district, the fermented meal is consumed after meals, based on food habit. And if we see from various studies, each time has advantage before also shown the advantage, and after meal is also. I think Burina or Professor Patricia can give more feedback about this. Maybe any study what time is better to consume fermented food, whether before, after, or during meals. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Yusra. Okay, so maybe Prof. Patricia, Dr. Rina, do you have any opinion on this? What is the best time to consume probiotics, fermented products?
Well, I'd make the comment that not first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, because the pH in the stomach is extremely low after fasting all night. And so if it is a strain that is pH sensitive, it's better to have it with even just simply a glass of milk to raise the pH in the stomach. But otherwise, I don't think there's a clear cut. There hasn't been a definitive study showing before the meal, after the meal, except for the fact that consider the pH in the stomach. We know that at the resting stomach, in other words, if you haven't eaten for some hours, the stomach sphincter between the stomach and the small intestine is open. So the first thing that goes into the stomach passes through the stomach without sitting there. And after you've eaten, the first thing goes in, 10 minutes later, that sphincter closes. So then whatever you eat is consumed, is in the stomach acidity for a couple of hours. So if you really want to be fussy, you can perhaps use that window of the sphincters open if you want to get it through the stomach without being processed. But I think it just makes it too hard. And I don't think it matters if it's sitting in the stomach with food.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Tricia. I think that is a very complete question, complete answer to the Basimas question of Basimas. We still have 1 minute and 2 questions left. I think the question from Raisa Azhar already a little bit answered by Dr. Rina and Prof. Patricia previously. Maybe to close the session, we can answer the question from Metri Rona. Prof. Patricia, again, back to you. I am curious about the trends for probiotics consumption in Singapore or Australia. Is there any thing interesting that different from these two countries, especially one Asian, one non-Asian?
Yeah, I think there actually is, because and I think in some ways it's linked to milk consumption, because probiotics historically have frequently been administered in milk, and the Australian population is a much higher consumer of milk than Singapore because of lactose intolerance. So therefore the interest in probiotics, I think, is higher in Australia, and it can perhaps be the marketing. Whereas Singapore has been, because it's a small market, it may not be targeted by the big companies to a big market, because if marketing guys are really good at their task, the products will be out in every household. And I'm just more aware of higher probiotic usage. I did conduct a survey through gastroenterologists, both within Singapore and Australia, and gastroenterologists in Australia and general practitioners are more interested in using probiotics than the gastroenterologists in Singapore. But once again, it's Australian general practitioners versus Singaporean gastroenterologists.
Thank you very much, Prof. Patricia. So I think all of the questions answered very well today. Thank you very much. And the time is very good. Yeah, we finish really on time. 11:31 the committee says. So thank you once again to our 3 incredible speakers. Also our keynote, if still here, Professor Murdani. Thank you very much. Before I close the session, there will be a photo session for all the speakers. So I will hand this session to the committees, to Mas Rafid. Maybe you can take this session.
Yes, okay, thank you, Asela, to everyone in the panelist tab. If you can open your camera, it would be very much appreciated. There are 2 pages in this tab, so I will screenshot starting from the first page. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. The second one, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's it. Back to Kasela.
Okay, thank you very much. A quick photo session. Thank you very much once again to our speakers. Now we know, and I think we all agree, that there are a lot of benefits of the probiotics and microbiome to our health. As age changes, we experience many stages of life. Citing from one of Dr. Rina's slide, microbiome is revolutionizing the pursuit to a healthier life. So there are a very interesting connection between human bodies and microbiome, gut microbiota, plenty of space to do and conducting many researchers regarding to this. Again, probiotics has so many potential to beneficial our health. It's very depending also on the strain, different dose can affect differently also. And Indonesia also has already catch up with these rapidly growing issues of probiotics and microbiomes by having very complete, detailed regulations and recommendations about the probiotics foods and then also fermented foods and other related to microbiomes added food products. So thank you very much again to our three incredible speakers. Excellent presentations. We got so many informations important today. Thank you once again. Have a nice day to all participants, speakers, also committees. Congratulations, a very successful event today. Looking forward for next year International Seminar on Nutrition. Thank you very much. I'm Sela Septiani. I will give the session back to our MC, Mbak Caroline. Time is yours.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sala, as the moderator, and to all speakers who have been given very interesting presentations. Thank you also to all participants who have asked a question during the question and answer session. Hopefully, the answers given by the speakers are enough to satisfy all questioners. And we would like to once again thank all the sponsors for making this event happen. So let us watch the video from Frisian Flag. Happy watching. Alright, thank you. Thank you also to NutriFiber Shot, Heavenly Blush, Kinberry, and once again Frisian Flag who has sponsored this event. And we would like to also thank Lini Sehat Media, AMSA Indonesia, Ilmu Giziku, Nutrition Ismi Indonesia, and other media partners who have published this event and on their every social media. We would like to inform you that the certificate will be given to participants who attended from the beginning to the end of the event or who attended the seminars and symposium. So we would like to also inform you that the attendance list will be given at the end of the symposium session, so do not forget to join the symposium. Last, we would like to also say thank you to all participants who have attended the 6th International Seminar on Nutrition. May this event be useful to you and see you at the next year's International Seminar on Nutrition. Now we will move on to the next event, which is the symposium. In room 1, there will be a symposium on how lack of gut microbiota leads to depression and healthy gut flora, the alternative towards ideal body weight. And in room 2, there will be a symposium on the importance of gut microbiome to our health and the effectiveness of fermented traditional food in stimulating the microbiome system during COVID-19 pandemic. All the attendants are expected to choose one room and join the room which has been given by committees in the chat room. I would like to once again remind you that to achieve the certificate, all attendants need to join symposium rooms until the end of the symposium session. The symposium will begin at 12:30 and attendants are pleased to enter the room first. Thank you. See you later at the next year's International Seminar on Nutrition.